So a bunch of notes about Impact itself. In a few markets, their regional sports channel preempts TNA Impact for other programming, but the vast majority see the show at the standard Friday 3 p.m. time slot. I think it's New York and Philly are a couple of those markets where it's preempted and they're aired at real weird times. So it is strong wrestling markets where it's being preempted, but nonetheless they still have clearance across the majority of the FSN networks. Because if you remember, FSN is not like one. Well, it does have a national feed, but it's not generally one channel. It's a collection of regional sports networks that have some national programming, but the big attraction is the local sports. And for the most part, they got clearance across all of those regional sports networks. There, 3 in the afternoon on Fridays.
It's kind of what you saw with Ring of Honor and Sinclair's networks.
Yeah, if you were trying to look at the time Ring of Honor aired at, it was all over the place.
Which was also impossible to track down. And because they used to upload their shows the week after on their website, but because of the nature of how it aired, sometimes it just wouldn't be on there for 2 days extra. And you're like, what is going on?
You really wanted to see the Ring of Honor Pure tournament and they were keeping it away from you.
No, this was before that. This was I really wanted to see the Briscoes take on the Headbangers or some shit.
The first show received rave reviews for its state-of-the-art presentation and production values. The decision to begin and end the show with exhibition matches was not without its second-guessers, but ultimately Jeff Jarrett and Josh Mantell decided the best way to combat WWE and grab attention of channel flippers was to fight WWE on a different level, one in which they can't compete or won't compete, and that being contemporary athleticism and high spots.
That's a reasonable and balanced take on how to present your show in comparison to the biggest show in the world.
Yeah, so instead of sending Raven out there immediately, instead of doing the Dusty and Jarrett segment to open the show, they're like, nope, we're going to go high energy, wrestlers you've not seen before. This is TNA.
But, you can sprinkle some Raven in there, I feel. I don't think you need to cut him out completely.
Well, Jarrett makes the case that they need a clean slate heel champion for the start of television. If you listen to his podcast, they talk about this, that he's like, television is something new. It's a new audience. We need to start from scratch. And the easiest way to do that is heel champion, babyface chase, which is not a completely illegitimate argument. But then the question would be, well, why did it have to be you, Jeff? Why did you have to be the heel champion? Why couldn't it be Raven?
Why couldn't it be heel Raven doing this with anyone else?
Because if I'm honest, if I were to see that argument, I think I would go, let's go with Raven. He has the name from WCW and WWE. It'll be his first title run. It'll feel fresh. He's been doing good stuff for the most part up and down our card for a year and a half now. Let's pull the trigger on Raven going into TV and have AJ and Harris chase him. But Jarrett's like, no, I'm going to pull the trigger on me again for the third time. I'm going to have Truth chase me and kick AJ and Harris off to the secondary divisions. It feels a lot like a man who wants to make a television show all about himself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's bits and pieces here to it. I see some points, I see things that feel like giant mistakes, but what are you going to do at this point,
Mm.
Let's just see where it goes.
You're going to be saying that for a year, buddy.
Yeah. But when he loses, it's going to be such a good moment. Right, Garrett?
Yeah, sure.
Right?
Yep, definitely.
It's gonna be worth it, right?
100%. And the guy who beats him is going to have a really long reign. Really long. Super long reign. Bob Carter, the head of Pound Energy, was present at the Universal Studios tapings and appeared to be pleased with the experience.
Me too, Bob.
Vince McMahon said in an interview on TSN in Canada that he doesn't consider TNA competition because they're wrestling, we're entertainment.
Yeah, well, Vince, how about Paul saying this week or whatever that we're wrestling now? How do you feel about that, Vince?
Yeah, it only took 18 years, but we finally proved the TNA won this war. And wrestling wins.
They brought wrestling back. Well, NXT was basically a TNA parody company.
TNA saved professional wrestling is what I'm saying, Liam.
And put it on a shirt.
Well, they were thinking about that. There are people internally who want to use that they're wrestling or we're wrestling their entertainment or whatever Vince said. The direct quote from Vince, as the marketing slogan, which they probably should have.
I was gonna say that's not bad. They're wrestling, we're entertainment. Dash Vince McMahon.
There were 3 matches that took place at the debut Impact tapings at Universal Studios on June 3rd that did not air the next day. The opening match, Sonny Siaki and Irish Pat Kenny, and Desire beat Trinity, Glenn Gilberti, Johnny Swinger. Heavy Metal beat Frankie Kazarian, and then there was a big gauntlet that Ron Killings won, eliminating Monty Brown in the end.
I'm glad that those weren't the matches they chose.
Yeah, so they flew a bunch of people down there just to wrestle random matches. I don't think they've ever released any of those matches. I assume they taped them.
Have to track them down. Holy
Grails!
Coming soon to the Patreon.
Yo, this Ron Killings gauntlet match. We need to see it.
Pat Kenny versus Sonny Siaki or whatever it was.
Heavy Metal against Frankie Kazarian? Whoa!
Well, that I do want to see. Desire and Trinity before they do the worst match I've ever seen?
Before the show began, Jimmy Hart and Johnny Fairplay welcomed the fans. They didn't put Fairplay on TV, which is a point of contention for Fairplay that we'll talk about in a sec as well. But yeah, Jimmy Hart has a bigger backstage role with TNA these days. He's like the point guy for Universal Studios, and he's working backstage.
Okay, Jimmy.
And obviously waiting to get Hulk Hogan back in.
Yeah, Hulk Hogan's coming in any day now.
Jeff Jarrett was on a local Orlando radio station called Monsters in the Morning on Thursday to promote the debut of Impact that night. He got into an argument with the host as an angle to get people talking, to get them down to the Impact Zone.
Cool.
TNA management was extremely pleased.
Jeff Jarrett loves doing local radio.
He loves doing local radio angles as well. He can never just go on the show. He always has to do a bit.
Well, yeah. I mean, he's a heel, you know. They're not sending AJ up there to do it, are they?
Because in like the build to the Hogan thing, remember when they did the Jimmy Hart angle where he stormed the radio station?
That was a good angle, though, to be fair.
Yeah, they should have recorded this one too.
That was in his Stone Cold days.
He's still in his Stone Cold days.
No, he's not. This is wee whoop guitar shot, Jeff Jarrett.
TNA management was extremely pleased with the Thursday night tapings in Orlando, even before they began post-production work. Part of the reason is the crowd couldn't have been better. They were enthusiastic, many of them knew TNA's top wrestlers, and it was mostly teenage and 20-something guys, giving the crowd a more hip feel than the Nashville Fairgrounds where the pay-per-views take place.
The key demo.
Young men. Jerry Moore even remarked to the crowd that they were better looking than the Nashville crowd, and he'll take some heat for that.
Well, it's fine. None of the Nashville crowd know how to work the computer anyway. I'm the Jeremy Borash of this podcast. I love the Florida crowd.
Bunch of hideous uggos over there in the asylum. Look at you pretty people here in the Impact Zone.
Thank God we're getting out of that schlop.
In a press release announcing the use of the six-sided ring for the Fox Sports Net show, Jeff Jarrett said, "The six-sided ring brings professional wrestling into the 21st century. Wrestling, like any sport, must evolve through time, and total non-stop action wrestling's continued innovation is an example of that. Our athletes will now have more angles, moves, and space to showcase themselves, and TNA wrestling as the new wrestling alternative."
That's me trying to talk to Scott in 2022 about bringing back the six-sided ring.
They do constantly talk. Like, anytime somebody does a dive, Mike Tenay is always like, that's because of the six-sided ring. It's like, there's more angles, there's more sides, there's more stuff they can do.
But to be fair, I get that. Like, for a lot of people, this is the first time they're seeing a six-sided ring. Why not, like, push it as like, wow, look how cool and interesting and different this is. We're wrestling, they're entertainment.
Oh, that should be their slogan.
Yeah.
I find this one interesting because I think like 10 years later the flip side becomes the case, but TNA wrestlers are excited that due to tourists at Universal Studios every week, many fans each week in the arena will not be weekly regulars. In the Asylum in Nashville, the regulars tend to get burned out on certain characters and somewhat jaded, so a fresh mix of fans each week, TNA wrestlers and management feel, would help keep fan reaction remain at a higher level.
I think good shows keep the fan reaction at a high level.
They keep doing this, don't they? It's like there's some magic reason that the crowd aren't responding other than the shows are good or bad.
Yeah, that's every cop-out from every promoter ever.
Because the exact same, like the exact opposite thing begins to happen like in Orlando. It's like, oh, it's only a bunch of tourists who don't care, so they're not making noise. Even though you watch this episode of Impact and you see them absolutely lose their shit at freaking every single dive. So Sanjay does do a Dragon Rana in that first match. That is worth losing your shit at.
There's a lot of stuff worth losing your shit at on that first show.
Yeah, just produce good television and people will react to it. Stop making excuses for your crowd not giving a shit about your shitty, boring television. Fans had begun to line up for the debut of Impact at 2 p.m. in the afternoon and waited in line for 5 hours in 100-degree high humidity weather.
Well, let me just do a little bit of math to see if I'm impressed by this. I mean, that's warm. Yeah, I wouldn't like doing it in a humid 37. Oh, if it was a sunny 37, grow up. That's a great day.
Let it be known, 37 degrees is warmer than it has ever been in Ireland. Ever.
Trust me, we were discussing this heat wave that you're going through lately.
Which was like 2 days where it broke 30 and then back down to like below 20. And we're like, no, we can't handle it. It's too much for us.
I do hate to be like the I come from hot place, ha 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 thing. But literally have had 50-degree days where my car has started melting to the road.
Yeah, but have you considered that it's 30 degrees here and it's very hot?
Sounds like a wonderful day. As long as it's not humid. Humid in 30s sucks. That I will admit.
It's like the highest temperature in the history of Ireland is 33. So there you go. And that was in like 1890. So
50.8
is the highest recorded temperature in Australia.
In Mildura. I think it's been higher since then. I think we hit above that, but yeah. Just awful. 50.7. I wonder what Melbourne is. Because I'm pretty sure we held it for a while.
You were like the death pit of Australia.
Well, just Victoria. Melbourne's highest is 47.
That's nothing compared to your 50.8.
A paltry 47 in February of 2009. But, like, which is funny because, like, that's just like one section. Like, you go to, like, you know, the 60% of our country that is desert that we never talk about.
Where there aren't people, the weather doesn't count.
Yeah, basically. I mean, how are we supposed to know?
There's no one. Only the kangaroos know how hot it's out there.
And the camels.
There is concern among the wrestlers as to whether Impact viewers will accept the low-budget qualities of the pay-per-view events held in Nashville. They have to get out of Nashville now, said one wrestler. Others say that while the production downgrades will disappoint some viewers, they expect most fans to be satisfied as long as the matches and storylines are strong.
Well then, yeah, the fans are going to be satisfied. That's some really optimistic thinking.
There has been some talk since the show that company officials were considering the idea of moving the pay-per-views to Orlando as well. However, an informed source reports that the first planning to upgrade the set, lighting and production in Nashville and keep the Wednesday shows there.
Please God, just cancel the shows. I'm begging you. Jeff, I'm going back to the future to tell you, please just stop the shows.
Just immediately switch to the monthly pay-per-view model. You'll be much better off.
What if we just skip the next, 2 months?
Nope.
Well, it was worth a shot, guys. I tried my best.
The word being spread out of the TNA office is that FX officials were blown away by the Impact debut and have expressed interest in bringing the show to primetime on their cable network. Of course, both FX and Fox Sports are owned by Fox, so if FX is serious enough, they should be able to work something out quickly.
Hell yeah, I want to do my Walking Dead x TNA crossovers.
Two things that kept going long past the point they should have.
I think Walking Dead is still going.
God, and there's 3 spin-offs. How have they not given up on The Walking Dead yet?
Well, they're doing a new one that brings back all the characters people liked, so I think that one's going to do well.
Oh, that's nice.
They're like, hey, what if all the characters that made this show popular were back? Everyone's like, wait a minute.
That's revolutionary thinking.
I should finish that show eventually, just out of a point of pride.
I don't know, if keep it still going, there's just no end point. Even if there's spin-offs, it just never ends.
Well, the spin-offs are still going, but it's the last season of The Walking Dead proper.
I don't know, every season of that show is the exact same.
Yeah.
It's all we have found a place we think will be our safe haven. Oh no, it's not! And that, rinse and repeat, season after season.
I mean, wouldn't that be how it is?
Yeah, but you have to find some new interesting story to tell instead of
But Garrett, what if I told you the people were the real monsters?
Whoa, that's a revolutionary take, Liam. You should write something.
Yep. It's not the zombies.
It's the people. I see how it is.
It's the people. They have tigers and swords.
And
no morals.
Dusty Rhodes is trying to angle himself into power. He was suggesting pushing for a 9 p.m. Monday time slot, which was the consensus among just about everyone asked, including both Jarrett's, if they could pick their slot on FX. Right now, they are only in early talking stages. Fucking leave the Monday Night War dead, you stupid idiots.
I like how they're like, this is their idea, let's go. Not just, hey, maybe if we put it on our own night, people might watch it. Yeah. But I don't know. I want to see again. This is my problem. I hear things like this, and I'm like, I want to know what that world looks like. The world where they got on FX
And went to war.
No, it's not necessarily on the Monday time slot. Because I know what would happen if they went to war. We saw it in like 10 years from now.
And that was during a period when they had millions of viewers watching every week as opposed to hundreds of thousands.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of hundreds of thousands.
So the debut of Impact on June 4th drew a preliminary number of a 0.16 rating based on markets that aired in its regular time slot.
TNA in the mud.
That would translate to maybe 100,000 homes.
That's like a Rampage number.
The final ratings for these shows, because of the different time slots that figure in different stations, won't be available until 3 weeks after the show takes place. For the network in the time slot, it was considered a good number. That is roughly half of what the network's flagship Best Damn Sports show does at night.
But Garrett,
Yep.
What is the demo?
We don't care about the demo here. We just care about total audience.
What? But the demo is the most important, Garrett, because that's the one that the advertisers look at. Don't you know? After the last 3 years of constant discussion.
No, I don't.
Where's my Fast National?
This is the Fast National, basically.
Oh, cool. When is our cheese board?
Yeah, come on, Dixie.
Oh, follow her on Twitter.
Send us a ham.
Ooh, I need the ham.
So that number was revised from a 0.16 up to a 0.22 when the final number came in, and then the second episode did a 0.32 rating, which would be in like the 200 and something thousand range, the low 200,000s. Those are Dave estimates, by the way, I believe, not the actual numbers. The audience figure, not the rating. The ratings are accurate. The audience figure is a Dave guesstimate based on the rating. But yeah, so they're doing somewhere in like the 150, 200,000 range, which is pretty good on FSN. It's up there with what FSN is doing for their Best Damn Sports show, which is their flagship show that's not local sports. So good numbers, basically.
Damn, that's like half of Ring of Honor towards the end.
And Ring of Honor aired on like 700 different networks.
Remember that day that came out and like I forgot joke off or whatever, it was like, yeah, it's in like 600,000 homes. You're like, whoa, I don't believe you.
Yeah, it's mostly like 70-year-olds falling asleep with Ring of Honor on after the local news. But
I mean, hey, if it works for NXT 2.0,
it's true. That is the prime demographic you're aiming for.
Do you think wrestling is just the olds? Is that the problem?
I think it's made by people who have been making it for 20 years and have no idea what young people want.
And remember, if you are a rich fan of the show, you can donate to us. And for a small donation of $9.7 million, we will start up a promotion with you.
Like, even when you look at Tony Khan, who is a young person, like, his influences are old wrestling. So that bleeds onto his show. So, like, his show isn't even, like, the bastion of wrestling aimed at young people. It's just wrestling. It's good wrestling, but it's still just wrestling. So there's nothing really in wrestling in the last 20 years that's like NXT 2.0 is trying in the obnoxious way. Where it's like, we're gonna have Wade Barrett say simp every 15 seconds. It's like,
it's lit.
That's how do you do fellow kids wrestling. But yeah, there's no new wrestling for young people.
One day maybe, huh?
Well, like, in theory, that's what WWE is, right? They're the kid wrestling that graduate to the AEW, which is the teen and adult wrestling.
Well, sure. I mean, in theory, it was Dragon Gate for like a decade.
For US fans?
Oh, no, I meant in general. I can't really think of anything else.
Yeah.
I can't say there's any promotion for the youths.
No.
Maybe it is just WWE based on like
Scale.
Based on scale, yeah. Like maybe like that is just how it is. But you know, I also feel like this is a very weird tangent to go off on. But hey, we're doing a wrestling podcast. Let's talk about wrestling. I think that as WWE has become slightly more niche while keeping a lot of its global presence, that other wrestling has started to come with it. Like nowadays, people who find WWE are very quick to find an AEW or a New Japan or Indies. You know what I mean? I think the crossover is more than there has been in a long, long time, because now I have people who go up to me and they're like, "Oh, I used to watch WWE, but I saw this AEW thing," and I'm like, "That's crazy to me." because I've only grown up ever in a world where, like, hear people called wrestling WWE.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't say, you like wrestling. They say, oh, you like WWE. Like, and I feel like that perception has changed a lot recently.
It helps when you have a strong number 2 competing.
Well, yes. But, I mean, like, I think this change has been in the air since, like, 2015. I don't think it's been at a peak, but I think it's been trending in this direction.
I do think it largely comes from the internet being pervasive. That, you know, back in 1999, you knew WWE, you knew WCW, and there was no way for a smaller company really to break through without television. Whereas now, if you Google wrestling, you'll get like a smorgasbord of just tons of different wrestling companies. Or that was just harder to do. It was just harder to find out about other things in 1999.
But also, like, if you're like 15-year-old WWE fan and you follow them on YouTube and you click a WWE clip, there's a good chance an AEW clip will pop up right next to it.
Yeah, the algorithm is helping.
Yeah. But, like, yeah, and that's not even just AEW. There's a good chance of, like, you search any wrestling thing, you click on it, then, like, an Impact clip will come up, or some indie that had a match with someone related to it in it at one point will come up. Like, it's not hard. It's not hard to be accidentally exposed to other elements of wrestling now.
Yeah, even if you're searching for Sting, you might find a WCW clip, you might find a WWE clip, you might find an AEW clip, or you might find a TNA clip.
Yeah, which you know, and even like if it's something that's like, oh, I'm going to search Kevin Owens. Oh, Kevin Owens rumored AEW videos, 17 of them in a row. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there's no way for you to be completely in the bubble anymore. Like, even if you're just someone who watches WWE SmackDown and WWE Raw, there's no way to be in the bubble anymore.
Unless you're like a 50-year-old who doesn't use the internet.
Because there's references to other companies now. So, like, just by watching the one promotion, you're gonna pick up some things. Like, if you've, in the last 5 years, if you were someone who literally only watched SmackDown and Raw and never went on the computer ever, you will still have heard of New Japan. And you would have heard a reference to AEW. Because they were things that were just mentioned now.
Which is good. That's the way it should be.
Yeah. Well, it's like if you're that person, at some point, you know that AJ Styles was an IWGP champion in Japan.
You wouldn't know he's a TNA champion, though.
Well, that's wrestling, their entertainment.
Oh, of course, yes. That's my mistake.
Yeah.
New Japan, famously, also entertainment.
Yes. I mean, have you seen it? But yeah, like, in general, like, it's just a more open, easily accessible world, which I guess just comes with the passage of time and the way that the internet and social media has evolved. And Logan Paul.
Well, yeah, Logan Paul helps too. He's the man of the youth warrior.
He's impulsive.
God damn it. The Paul there is actually referring to Triple H, not Logan Paul.
Ooh. Yeah, I'm a politician. A Logan politician.
There was considerable controversy about Fair Play not being on the first TV show, and some regarding Raven as well. The feeling was that Fair Play put TNA over on the final Survivor episode and the company hasn't used him. The flip side is the feeling that he's not worthy as a performer because he gets so fidgety and nervous. He was openly complaining at the show and went to owner Bob Carter, who made a rare appearance at the show, not realizing that it hasn't done anyone any good to go over Jeff Jarrett's head because the Carters know that they don't know wrestling like the Jarretts and leave the talent decisions to them. So old Johnny Fairplay wants to get himself on television and just stuck his mouth in it.
I mean, I don't blame him, but like, isn't he like one of the few guys who are actually signed to a deal?
Well, like most of the wrestlers are signed to deals these days because of television, but yeah, they signed him to a deal and he's not the show. Though there's a vignette for him to debut at the very last show of the month, the last Impact.
Yeah, so we will see how that goes.
Yeah, so old Johnny Fairplay being out in the cold. He's put over TNA on Survivor. TNA's just using Johnny Fairplay for his clout, not willing to give Johnny Fairplay opportunities.
I mean, yeah.
It should be how you do it, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, yes. That's how being a celebrity guy works, man.